It's calling this meeting to order. This is a notice of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay that's posted pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice is hereby given that the City Council of Nassau Bay, Texas will conduct a marine workshop on May 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Nassau Bay Fire Department at 18295 North Bay Road, Nassau Bay, Texas 77058. Just so everyone, we can queue up things. This is not something. What's that? It's a workshop. It's just a workshop. I was just going to say that.
Okay.
So this is a workshop. We're gonna. This is for a conversation to take place so that everybody can have it's almost like a public meeting, public hearing, because we want to have. There we go. There's a voice just today.
I made it.
Right. Come on in. And just to do formalities, there are now 4 members of council here, which is Sarah Horton, Chase Waterwall, Lucy Sommer, and myself. So we do have a quorum, but we are not going to take action on things like this. Is a way for us to be able to get information that can be part of what we decide to do. So this is meant to be iterative. We're not going to have the formalities like we've had on council. So if you have anything that you want to say, a workshop's meant for you to raise your hand. You're going to be recognized. So there's no 3-minute restriction. This is meant to be a dialogue. And I'm going to preface this a little bit because this is going to be a little bit of a hard one, because there's 2 things that I believe are coming into a little bit of conflict, and they're 2 very good things. One is that we are a waterfront floating community. So there are people who are going to be recreating and things like that, and that's something that is part of the lifestyle of this. We have more seats. The second is, though, that we're also a residential community. There are things going on that I've been a recipient of a number of complaints. I know that others, which is the purpose for why we're having this, is if there are areas that we need to tighten in order to be part of public safety, we want to hear about it, we want to discuss it, we want to throw what I like to say, spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. But I think there are some things that are causing some citizens some real difficulty that I just think we have to talk about. And that's the purpose of today's meeting. Just again to go over, finalize some things on. I'm supposed to ask citizen comments, but since this is a public hearing, I'm going to dispense with that. I'm also going to dispense with council member comments, and we're going to go immediately into the workshop, just doing formalities, folks. So, if I can preface some things here first, is that, I think we need to. I'd like to hear from people. I'm gonna play a little bit of the person who's kind of aggregating a lot of things that have come my way, just to kind of see if people see the same thing that has been complained about. And we have the map here, and if you look at the areas where we've been receiving complaints, and a lot of it is around speed, a lot of it's around noise, a lot of it is just around the amount of activity. But probably the one that I get the most amount here, believe it or not, is coming around this bend right here, people flying at 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour. It's not very well marked. We don't have a no-wake zone there. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. But this is here. It's a blind turn, and there's also remnant, and I can't see exactly, but I believe like right around here is the still a boat launch or a kayak launch, things along that line. So people are scared to death to be even out here, with a kayak, with anything along that line, to be able to do this. And this is only going to get worse, because as you go, later on, as you go up the creek, League City is planning on doing a tremendous amount of development, which means a whole lot more boats are going to be going up this way. So this this is a first area of just concern that I'd like to see if people. The other is coming across right through here. We get people who come off the channel, they go flying through the canal, they make the wide turn, and they're still going fast, and they put a huge amount of wakes and things like that that have done actual damage to people's boats. So I've had people call and talk about that, and it's really not much can be done at that, because usually by the time things go, it becomes a he said, she said kind of thing. And then the other is just the overall amount of people down here and the noise. And then the last is up here. I don't want to leave out Bal Harbor. You know, the areas right through in here. I've gotten quite a few things is that people tend to take liberty on speed and wake up through that way too. So is that, am I capturing the biggest concerns of the area? Am I doing it proper? Does anybody else have anything else that they see that they want to talk about or mention?
I got one thing. About 10 years ago, I put a new bulkhead in. It's about $80,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's just probably about the same.
It is.
I can't imagine what it would be now with the price of lumber having gone up. But the lifespan of a bulkhead without weight is like 30 years. With the weight is anywhere between 1/3 and 2/3 as long as that. So that's a substantial cost that I have to bear, just so people can do what they want.
And I personally, when I had a sailboat, I had teak tunnels on the top. And I had things where a boat came by there where there was a wake of, I'm just going to say over 2 feet. And it raised it up and down, and it caught the bulkhead, and it actually ripped up the whole teak part of
I've had people throw wakes up on my dock, on my boathouse. I used to have a floating dock, well, I don't have it anymore. Because someone decided in the steamboat to come about 10 feet away from it, full wake, and just ripped it off.
I know the people here have had a child almost swept off. Again, that's they're coming in very fast speeds that are coming through
I
there.
had a couple of kids in the water, family come, small kids, and they said, where's a safe place to be? And I said, well, if you go between like each boathouse and here, it's kind of like an L, just part of the road. And the kids swimming in between. And some guy on a jet ski just came through at like 60 miles an hour. Most of the kids had that this much.
Yeah, they just don't realize what they're doing. They just don't realize it.
One of the problems, I mean, I've been in the same house over here on Port Royal for 27 years. The problem has always been the signs say no excessive weight.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's like the state patrol saying, be careful here, because that's just a fine anyway.
That's the chief's biggest complaint on it.
And I think there are two sort of conflicting usages. A lot of people are in our neighborhood water ski or wakeboard or whatever, and it's usually early in the morning during the week. On the weekend, with the crowds you have in there, that's not safe. So you might consider something like having times that apply for one set of operation and time for another.
That's right.
But the worst violators that I've seen over the years, especially more recently, you'll end up with a really big boat, 50, 60 feet, come in, and they're slowing down, but even slowing down, they're putting up a 4-foot wave easily. The other main complaint I have is they rent jet skis over on South Shore, and people that have never been on a watercraft before come in 67 miles an hour on these jet skis, and they come into I'm on an interior canal, they come into the interior canals full speed. And, you know, it's a wonder somebody hadn't been hurt or killed with the way they behave on those things. So I'm suggesting maybe you want to consider hours of operation for certain speed limits and other hours like weekends, Friday noon until Monday morning or something, and just have a separate set of rules because the crowds are in there.
I think he is.
Yeah, I want to. I think the personal watercraft is really important. It's still a vessel, but
Yeah.
That's a serious issue in there. And they're low-time operators. I think one really good thing to do a reset here. Let's talk about the jurisdiction. We are in a very complicated area. Okay? That county line goes right down the creek.
Yeah, so just so
right here.
so the
Yeah.
county line
Yeah.
splits right through here.
Yeah, so I've been involved in boating accidents, and I had a boat sink and had 2 people go to the hospital, and I was on the line.
Yep.
It's a problem. Sheriff's Department doesn't want to take responsibility. I spoke with the Sheriff's Department. Harris County, Galveston County don't want to take responsibility. They put it off on the other people. And the areas you're talking about go right down that line.
Only one place. Only one place is here.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
right here, just so everyone knows.
I'm talking the canal.
Yeah,
The creek.
yeah, the creek.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is, you're right, there's
That's
shared jurisdiction.
That's right. So I just want to be clear, the area you're talking about was the biggest problem you mentioned number 1, was that corner. That's going to be a problem. So I just want to talk a little bit. I mean, there's signs, just so everybody, there's all kinds of markers all through that right side of the peninsula, to the east side. All of those are fake.
Right here?
By the way, yeah. No, on the other side. On the right side. Yeah. That's all fake markers. They're not supported by anybody. You can
Yeah.
speed through there anytime you want. Those were put up by the individuals that own the homes. They're not supported and endorsed by anyone.
And that's one of the reasons here is, and I'm gonna say this is, I believe the police and the fire department that's out there, when they're out there, they do a good job of tamping things down.
Sure.
But at the same time, though, and this is, I'll just talk with the excessive weight comment. I think you had made the excessive weight. If you were to ask everybody here to say what that means, you'd probably come up with probably as many definitions as there are people here. And the police have a hard time saying, okay, how do I make sure that they're truly in violation? So they're asking, this conversation prior to this, they're asking for some help in regards to better define that so that they can have a little bit more black and white to be able to enforce.
It's defined as normal
Correct me if I'm
operating
wrong.
planing speeds, Mayor.
Pardon?
It's planing speed
Yeah.
is excessive weight. If you're at planing speed, whatever your weight is for your boat length is not excessive weight, whether it be 6 feet or 2 feet. Just for the record, that's how it's defined. But to my point, I just want to be clear. We can't just arbitrarily start putting in, and I'm not saying we're going to, but we really need to think about markers and things that aren't enforced by a specific organization have no value.
So as my role here is, as the mayor of this town, that's the purpose of this, is to
Absolutely.
find out exactly that, so that we put in that signage, put in the exact regulations,
Enforced by the
and
city
then that
council.
gives the police the ability to enforce it,
Right.
right?
And
So-
one last thing, we own this water, is that correct? When it's
Yeah,
happening? That's one thing I don't think people might or may not.
In fact, that's probably,
Okay.
that's the two things. One I wanted to mention about the excessive weight is it's really ambiguous. It's really not a way to really help out the police to be able to enforce, because it's just tough. The other is, and don't get me for exactly the exact date, and Paul, you may know this better than I do, but I think right around 1999 or 2000, the city of Nassau Bay City Council annexed from the county all the area that went through up to here, and made all this, and this is, all this residential. It is not a park. It is not for recreation. It's not for anything. It's actually residential, which I believe a lot of people come through here believe this is a park. I believe they think they can come down here and do what they want, not realizing this is zone residential, not realizing how much residential areas there are through up here, and the way in which people access to recreate in some of the areas that are a problem. It's my personal belief.
It'd be great
Let me
to
catch
see a
something back
sign. It'd be great to see a sign that says residential area.
Correct.
My biggest concern is the noise, but there's another. You asked for what else. Another small thing that has happened from time to time is we get somebody really uncomfortably close into the house at night wanting to
Correct.
fish, and maybe there's good fishing there, but you feel like they're watching your house. It feels, and then maybe they have the music up, and it's a little
So
uncomfortable.
here's one of the things too, and I'm going to say this is I think the activity has gotten so much that it's now spilled over to where it's even a bigger problem, where before there was a little bit of annoyance, but now it's a problem. I believe our ordinances, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is you shouldn't be within 50 feet of a fixed structure in the base case. And if you're anchored, you're supposed to be 100 yards from a fixed structure, which I know we're not enforcing. I know we're not enforcing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
You,
I was going to say, I live in the last house on the peninsula. And I bear the brunt of all the noise.
You mean right here?
No, down at bottom.
Oh, down here.
Yep, the last house
Oh, yeah.
on the peninsula.
I feel for you.
Yeah, I feel
My heart
for
goes to you.
And I've been there for 22 years. And I have, I pick up on your comments about the volume of voters and things like that. I would like to say that I think that in general, the noise has improved considerably over the past 20 years. It's gone down.
I'd actually even say the last 2 years in particular, and
Yeah.
I'll give credit to these two gentlemen.
Yeah.
They keep tracking of it, and we've had much more patrols out there, and we've got an actual boat that can actually keep people out there, so we have presence.
But the problem is off hours.
It is.
I mean, last night or the night before, 2 o'clock in the morning,
Correct. I heard
we're
it.
listening to music. And based on where my house is, if the boaters that tend to go counterclockwise along the shore to escape the house, so they're not in front of somebody's house,
Or so they think.
so they think. So you can't see them, but you can hear them.
Yeah.
And they think that since they can't see my house,
What's
it's not bad.
There's
But
two things I'll
speak
say.
off,
The noise is a problem because in our own interior residence, you have buildings, you have trees, you have things along that line that tends to mitigate the transfer of that noise. Out on the water, it just bounces and goes through.
Even where they're down by his house,
They-
we can hear him on Back Bay Court.
No question.
On 2 o'clock in the morning.
No question, but I mean, what I would say is, and I know this for a fact, is down here, and I don't know if they're thinking of trying to get as far away as possible, but if you look at the place where there's the most amount of noise, the most amount of anchoring, the most amount, is right here in this pocket, right here. So this area, this corner here, I think bear more of a brunt of noise than any section of Nassau Bay out on the marina.
But I have another comment to make about the lagoon itself. And that
This
is,
lagoon
no, the
or this
lagoon where the
cove?
boats, yeah,
Cove.
Party Cove. And my feeling about that over the years has been that for a long time, it seemed to me that people were promoting that as a party area.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it was the city or city employees, but it would have been nice to see something on social media from the city cautioning people about noise regulations and underage drinking. And I have heard, I spent 35 years in the oil business, and I have actually heard some new words coming from, and I don't think that that's not entertaining.
Yeah.
So about the weight, right? And as a woman, I have no idea what the appropriate weight is for every craft. But what I would understand, and it would be easy to enforce for the police, is the speed limit. If you say 5 miles an hour,
Yeah.
you can't match weight with 5 miles an hour. And the police will be black and white here, this is the threshold. And I think that would be very easy.
It's no wake zone, or it doesn't work.
So
I work in the boat.
I think you're right.
So,
But the question is, where do we want it?
yeah.
Because I don't think we want a blanket, no wake everywhere.
I want one quick comment. I appreciate the police enforcement, and I know we're down 3 officers, and I know we're down 2 firemen. We have the boat, we have all that. We don't have the police to enforce any of this right now. So if you're telling us that we're going to do less, we also need to hear from you that that things are changing. And I will tell you this: I called the police on Saturday and on Sunday this week, and super friendly. They couldn't have been friendlier. Took the decibel meter, went out there, did all that stuff. They were great. But even if they wanted to,
So
there's nothing they could do.
what I want to do, and part of this is I wanted to have both the fire chief and the police chief here, because I think they need to hear just the complaints we're hearing on council.
That's not a complaint on the police.
No, it's not. No.
They were super helpful.
What Paul can attest to, though, is, and we meet and we bring the chief in on some of our meetings, and we say, hey, we're coming into our budget cycle.
Yeah.
You know, the only way we're going to do this, and there's some of the other enforcement, it's not just we got to make sure we have the right number of people. And I know I'm committed to say we've got to give them the tools necessary to do that. Part of that's people. Okay, and that's just going to be a fact, and that's going to be how do we manage the budget in order to make sure we have these things.
So I would also say that you're saying we need the people, but I know a few years ago, this was probably like pre-Harvey, we did have signs out in the Party Cove area that was like kind of speed enforcement, and I think they got it washed away pretty much in Harvey. But when those signs were there, they were somewhat effective.
I think you're right.
And I think that putting signs up, while I know people like totally do not read the signs going into the peninsula, it says no pets right on the door. Oh, I didn't see it. But anyways, I do think that a few years ago when we had the signs out there, they were effective. I think in that time frame, we had good police boats out there and the signs were there, and I think that was helpful.
Chief, you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted to clarify to everyone that part of our problem is staffing. We have one opening right now. We have one new hire who is typically if I am fully staffed, I have 12 patrol officers. That's for 24 hours, 7 days a week. If I have nobody in training, nobody on vacation, nobody out sick, if I have all 12 of those officers working, that gives me 2.8 bodies on an average at any one time. Now that fluctuates a little bit depending on high priority time. Right now, having one position empty and one in training, which means I have 2 officers that are doubled up. We're down to 2.4 officers at any one time, and that's to cover the entire city. So that's why we're a little bit limited on what we can do out on the boats on some time. You know, if we were to increase that to add 3 more patrol officers or 3 more officers on the ship, that would bring us up to 3.5 man hours or personnel at any one time. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. So we understand what everybody is saying, you know, about the enforcement and things, and appreciate the positive comments. But we are limited in how much time we can actually put somebody on the boat. And we can only put one officer at a time on the boat.
Right, so that I'll wait.
Sorry.
Well, about 5 years ago, I was in a meeting where somebody articulated the possibility of putting metered mooring facilities. So they actually had to pay to moor their boat in what is still in my heart Swan Lagoon. I do not call it Party Cove. I saw the brochure of Nassau Bay. It was started at West Marine Max. They're the ones that started it. They printed a little brochure designated it Party Cove and encouraged the people who bought boats to take their boats there to party. And I went up there and found them, and I confiscated about 60 brochures and said, I'll take care of distributing these for you. But we're sitting here talking about the budget challenge presented to us by people who don't even live in Nassau Bay. And I would think if people were doing this in our park, playing the obscene music, you know, monopolizing the goodwill and the experience of the neighbors, we'd be figuring out something aggressive to let them know that they're guests here. And my own sense is I'm glad that people want to party there because that means it's a beautiful spot and I live right on it and they're confirming why I live there. But when they play the obscene music,
I think they ought to at least be paying for the right to have us send a police
And
officer.
that's what I wanted to drill down, because I wanna make sure everybody is aware, and I think most are. I mean, and I'll come to you, give me 2 seconds. When I see the noise, it's usually because people are rafted up. It's usually people are out there well, I'm just saying,
They play very loud.
I'm just saying, it's there. But there's also, I also worry about when I see people coming in with 10 people on a 21-foot boat where you know they don't have the right life preservers. They're blaring music out there. They tie up and do things. That's just not the type of guest that is being respectful in the area. The other is I've seen, here, and this is why I think we need to have, come up with some creative ways to do things, because I think there are some things that we can probably do. But you get 6, I've even seen 9 boats where they'll put the motor on one of the end boats, and they begin doing a pinwheel. They start going like that, and there could be 30 boats out here, really dangerous. So I mean, it's got to be that kind of chaos out on the cove.
So from a practical standpoint, before we can figure out what we want to do, there's the question of what we are able to do legally and what restrictions, if any, we can impose on that water. The rest of this pipe dreams that we don't have.
So you didn't know this is
capacity.
We annex this area, so this area, let's just say here, is just the same as here.
Mayor, can I interrupt? I think you may know all these people, but I don't know the names of all these people.
Sure.
There are people watching that's being live streamed, so it'd be good if people would identify themselves.
I think that's a great idea.
You know,
Steve, maybe you can start.
I know your names. There's other people.
2014 Port Royal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on party code.
So Bill, Jason Small, we live in Upper Bay, and so we kind of get to see the whole transit of it. I think I hear about enforcement. We see a big difference when the police department and the fire department are out there. It makes a tremendous difference, right? But I get that enforcement is an issue. I think one of the biggest changes that we can make that requires the least amount of enforcement is the no-wake zone. I mean, I hear you say that the no-wake zone over by the Wharf Marina is not is by the people who live out there. But I boat there all the time, and I rarely see people fly through there. Right? They obey that area. And in fact, there was a no-wake buoy that broke loose from there and drifted into the cove, I think about a year and a half ago. And people observed that transit buoy for a day and a half. Everybody stopped doing no way. So the thing is that, most of the people born after 93 have taken boater safety. There's a whole thing in there about no wake. There's nothing about no excessive wake. No one understands what that means, right? So if we apply the no wake zones, if we can, to the extent that we can.
We can.
And we have buoys out there, I think that will solve a big part of the speed and weight problem. And I think it'll also reduce traffic as a whole.
So
I agree with you. The definition of no excessive wake in our ordinance is 18 inches above the already ambient wave action, which is, if you've got the wind, yes, exactly. So for us on the boat, it's extremely difficult, especially if you've got a windy day and there's already wave action. Mayor and I, Paul, we've talked. I have no problem with changing the ordinance to no wake zone.
So is that something we can do?
It is. It is something we can.
Could we? But then you allowed to
recreational.
But it just, I've got a straw man that I'd like to have, but I want to hear people first here.
Just 2 things real quick. We used to have our own boys. I think maybe 5 years ago we had one on there. Police.
Boys, or
yes.
Yeah.
The second is that it's my understanding that Texas is a responsible big state. So what that means is that any lake that can cause damage, the person creating the lake is liable for that. So that would be no lake. If you have bulkhead.
Yeah, I think that's.
There's a string of buoys along from the yacht basin to the bridge, and even past the bridge.
You mean from here?
Yeah, from there all the way down past.
This way.
Yeah. And about halfway to that turn, and people I've never seen anybody go past those at excessive speed, so people do obey, even if there's nobody there to enforce them. The problem is, once you get past that last one, past the bridge, people open up and they go around that corner, and yeah, so I think even if it's a cheap solution, just put a few more no-wake buoys in the here and there.
What I've heard from people, I'm gonna maybe throw out a little bit of struggle on just this issue. You know, I believe in residential areas should be no wake.
Yeah.
Right? I believe even in this area right through here, that it's still very much residential. I'm gonna stop right here for right now. That should be no wake. And even though I agree with you, I've got a discussion, but I think the people of Lee City say the same thing, that we should put a no wake right here, at a minimum. And if there's other things here.
Sure, Mayor, but why is, it necks down right there, you know, just past, where's that back there or whatever? You know, the waves have a chance to dampen way out in the
I'm looking at just pure safety, not from the wake. I'm looking at pure safety for this location. There's riprap all through here. The wake here is not really doing anything. The only thing is there's that one location here, and the speed that comes through here is very, very difficult. And I'm worried there's going to be a huge accident.
There is. They go
There has been.
There has been.
Yeah.
Which is why, particularly this area, because of the site, there
Well,
needs
it's a dangerous
to
corner.
slow it down.
It's a dangerous corner.
It is.
In Florida, when I'm boating, there's big signs, dangerous blind curve, right there and down there by the sewer plant, that right by the park.
Right here.
Those are blind corners because they're more than 90 degree, and those are extremely. I see boats every day that don't slow down and they have the outside corner of that.
So you would actually get right here too.
Yeah.
But the inside of that turn is sanded in too. It's very, very shallow leading up to that sharp tip.
Yep.
Well, there's also big chunks on
Yeah.
it.
There are no signs there at all right now.
There's not. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna.
I just learned that this is a way.
For the purposes of this meeting, what we have, I think is insufficient. I'm just gonna say, let's just assume there's none, and what we want to put in, let's just make sure we have the areas we want to make sure have good signage, good communication to voters. And again, I agree with you. You know, this one's a difficult one too. Right through here, all up through here, but all here.
You also
It's residential.
That area you just pointed to is already, in by ordinance by Cal IU up to the,
Yeah, still, I'm just saying is,
it's already.
for the purposes of this meeting, I'm just saying that's residential. I think it should be completely.
boats come into that canal from Clear Creek into the lagoon on plane between the marker posts.
Where you
Coming in off of
Up here?
or Lake Chateau.
on the top of here.
Yeah, they come in,
Correct.
turn in there, and big boats are on full plane.
Yeah, this should all be, because as you're coming in here, it should all be no way. Once you come in here, you're right.
Well, but I've seen boats, 40-foot boats come in there.
That's what is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, the homes right here just get hammered.
Yeah.
They just get hammered.
But even further past the dangerous curve in the creek, going down towards the peninsula, that whole area, well, not that far, but into the start of the peninsula, that whole area is getting undercut. And we've lost probably 5 feet of city property in the last, I would say,
Where
5
are you meaning, like right here?
Further down, yeah, closer to my house.
Oh, right here.
Yeah,
There's
right.
the
No, but on the creek side,
Oh,
on
the
the
creek
creek
side.
side that goes along the sidewalk that goes
Yeah.
into.
I'll go take a look at that, because
Because it's all getting undercut.
we used to put
from
riprap
The
out
riprap
there.
stops.
There's
at the
no
peninsula.
riprap.
There's no riprap right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'll take a look at that.
It's all undercut and we're losing a lot of soil there.
Yep. That's what used to happen in a lot of other places.
Can you see
Is
to allow people to come to the particle farm?
I don't think we can do that. I don't think we can, but something that Rex was saying, I've heard this from them, is to manage the amount of boats that can be there so they have an occupancy, so to speak, is you put 20 moorings out there, and once you surpass 20 moorings, you're not allowed to anchor.
I'd like to speak to that, Mayor. I work on a project in Cali, and I'm super happy you brought that up, because there's a buoy system set up, because they get swamped. And the buoys are maintained by the city, and you have to reserve the buoys. And each one is marked, and each buoy is colored for a certain size of boat, meaning the number of manta anchors that they have in the water, because we have got, really bad sediment, right? So you can't just put anybody on any marker. But they have a disciplined number of buoys. You can control whatever you want, 25 there, whatever.
10 to 50, whatever.
And well, this is the good thing about it, is that each one is numbered, and you have to pay to moor on that. And you get the TX number, you get the souls on board, you get the link to the boat, you get the contact phone number, and we start making money instead of letting all these people that don't live in Nassau Bay. I get some people use it, but okay.
Most do not.
Most do not. We start generating revenue. We throw that back into the mooring maintenance program that takes care of that, and we hire some 18-year-old person in high school that has a john boat. This is what they do. They go around and they collect money from all of those marking buoys, and there's no enforcement required. Everybody knows the rules.
Well, there's still going to be enforcement, because in order for people to buy into that, they've got to get the tickets.
It's going to take a while, but what happens is people, after a few months, they start realizing, right.
Well, and also there's an act for that.
Yeah.
You can do all that.
You can't. But I mean, I like this. I mean, it takes some work to do.
It works great. Now, I won't tell you the cost of Catalina of a buoy, but we're not going to.
Does anybody take issue? Does anybody take issue with the no wake areas that I mentioned?
No.
Because I particularly left off the code because that's a big body of water, and that's where a lot of people recreate and things. I mean, if there's places where people water ski or jet ski or do this, it's here and over here.
So you're
Well, the
talking
good thing about that,
so you're
how are you
talking
going-
about no wake from basically when you're turning the corner and basically you're heading towards all those, basically Upper Bay, right where you live.
So like cut
There,
across here. Yeah.
Entering into the cove.
Right now, I'd say to the mouth of the cove right here.
Yeah, see, I'm not a water sports person. I mean, we have a boat, but we don't visit it very often. We probably shouldn't have a boat. But, so I'm just curious if people do water skiing. I mean, I know Ashley's not here, but they water ski.
All I know is
where
from my
she
vantage point,
does.
I never see anybody water ski anymore. So
Well, there's a ton of
At least in the
I like there are tons of stores on these bends that you guys are saying are the most dangerous, and it is a blind spot, and it honestly it makes me nervous. I'm not saying one way or the other, but most people ski and wakeboard and surf and that bend
it's right here.
because it's blocked from the wind. I do not see anyone doing anything on the way into the cove or
That's too
down.
shallow. Right here.
Yeah, because you literally have to stay between the stakes because this side is like 12 inches deep and this side is like 7.
And it's also too much traffic where people they just.
But they are on the
Yeah, how can you allow people to go and have speed in the coves and adhere to the no wake policy?
Yeah,
Well, just where it's at. I mean, all I'm doing is right now is I just want to do some of the easier stuff first. Okay, because when I look at this area here, it's residential. I look here, this is residential. I look here, this is residential. There's homes all through here. These are just speed areas that I was looking at, and to here. Then the question comes, what do we want to do in code?
Well, and I think the best positive thing that will come from that is you'll come to grips with the fact that it is your responsibility to manage the welfare of the people living there around. And a no-wake zone is a clear signal to everybody who comes anywhere near here that there's an authority here that's responsible that you're subject to. And right now, they don't think they're subject to any of it.
They do not. I've had people, and you saw this last
The way
weekend.
they treated you.
Correct. I see them do it to the police officers, where they just flip them off. They do stuff. They think they have no authority at all, when in reality they have just as much authority in our ordinances as the Coast Guard. So they do believe this is a public park, not part of Nassau Glass, and that is our channel.
But many people come by and tell me to shut up because this is state property.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it is not. I mean, it's in the state of Texas, don't get me wrong, but it has been annexed by, and it's within the city's jurisdiction, and our rules apply.
I mean, everything's in the state, but
Correct.
my house is in the state, it doesn't give them access to it, right?
The piece here that I think would probably do the most, and I don't know who said it first, but the noise ordinance here. I'd like us to bring it incrementally down. Right now, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is in the residential area, it's 50 decibels at night and 55 during the day. And I'd like to just bring it down 5 decibels. You'd be surprised, because I have a decibel meter and I monitor it out there. And what you tend to get is, a group playing right at the 55, 60, and the cops, they want to make sure they got a defender, right? But then you'll get that bass going, right? And everybody's talking, but you'd be surprised with how far that bass goes, where it's not really that much above the 55.
Mayor, I would just be cautious. I would be careful and cautious about lowering the decibel measure, because just while we were having a meeting, I took some readings, and our average at this meeting is 56.9. just here in the
Measure from where to TV.
Yeah, and not only that is out on the water, and I would tell you, come out on the water and measure what 55 is and how it goes through, and you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked.
The officers that are out there,
What was the point of lowering
at the boats, that there is one boat by itself is not, it's the accumulation of all the boats out there.
And I usually, what I find and I see out there is you get 1 or 2 offenders and they start battling each other, and everybody turns up and things like that. Because everybody wants to hear their music, and once you get one bad actor, it all goes to hell in a
If you lower the sound threshold, all you're gonna do is increase the number of calls to the police department.
Yes. So they would literally go after the people.
No, they would have to have somebody, for one thing, on the weekends, they'd have to have somebody answer the phone, which I noticed doesn't happen very much. And then they'd have to have somebody attempt to enforce it. But we're talking about all of these great solutions to the problem, but nothing is gonna get done until we can enforce something.
So what we do have, and it's already well established. Brian Brown, 1454 Davon. Sorry.
I know, people are like texting me, who's talking? I don't know. Oh my God, sorry.
So anyways, what we do have are a great set of rules that already exist that give us an outstanding framework, and that's the NAV rules. The Inland Navigation Rules. It's in the Code of Federal Regulations. They are the rules that every person on the high seas, inland waters, anything have to adhere to. Now, when we're talking about Party Cove, the most important thing we're looking at is the lookout rule, Rule 5. And you have to be able to maintain a proper lookout by sight and sound. So that means you need to be able to hear the danger signal from another boat. And the annex, in Part 3 of the annex of the NAV rules, states different boat lengths. Now, from 12 to 20 meters in length, which are going to be obviously along the larger size of what you're going to see in there. Anything under 12 meters doesn't have to have a built-in sound generating system, but they can have
a horn.
Yeah, a horn. Horn or siren, but they can be affixed with one, that or they'll have to have an air horn or something, which again is not going to generate as loud as a fixed system would. But from 12 to 20 meters in length, a boat has to generate a horn at 111 decibels when measured 1 meter from the aperture of the sounding device. Now, we all know sound as it travels dissipates. Now, over water doesn't dissipate as quickly, but still, by the time you get down to generally about 55 decibels, you're only talking a range of a little over half a mile. And if you're listening to loud music, like Chief just said, 56.7 was what you just recorded in here?
That was the average.
Yeah. Yeah, the average in here. So you
The
can.
max in here was 76.7.
Yeah.
At one point, so.
But that's just right here. Someone's right next to their speakers.
You're talking 300 yards away.
Yeah.
Right?
And that is now, that sound that's dissipating has to compete with someone's speakers, which are not at 55 decibels. They are at 80 or 90 decibels.
At location.
Yeah, and they have to be able to maintain a proper lookout. If they're not able to hear and see.
I wanted to comment because, Chief, I hear you say that. But if you ask everybody here whether or not people are just hearing about average talking volume out on the Party Cove, I don't think anybody here would say that's a valid, description of what's happening out there. So it's loud, and I'm trying to help find a quantitative way so that it's black and white for you guys, so you don't get caught between stuff. And I'm with you, Brian. I think the 55 at the coast could be 80, 85 at the boat. And again, all I know is you get one bad actor and it all goes to hell in a handbag because everybody raises their music.
Safe to say, 55 decibels is not that loud talking in a room. But if these people are standing on your cul-de-sac outside your bedroom window at 11 at night talking to 55 decibels, you're going to be upset.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So, it's like all real estate. It's location. And,
yeah, on the water with nothing comes.
Yeah, it bounces across water, and it's timing also. But again, I get back to, what is it that we are legally able to do? All the rest of this
we can do that.
Nice discussion. But,
so I'm going to we legally can change the ordinance that has a volume threshold and enforce it. I grant what you're saying. You got to enforce it, right? So, Becky.
Becky Moncrief, 2007 Seacove Court. I have a canal behind my house, and we can certainly see the water. My house is built in an L shape with the garage going forward on the property, and it seems like all the sound from the water, it just gets caught right up in my courtyard area in the bend of the house, and it is extremely loud. We can hear personal conversations way across the water. My comment, though, is before I came here, several months ago, I've been concerned about decibel levels in Nassau Bay. And I looked up in our beauty codes under 11700 performance standards, and it lists our decibel levels as something other than the 50 and 55 that you're quoting. So I'd like to know at some point, I think we all need to know for sure, what are the correct acceptable decibel levels.
I've always thought of the Marines. I was looking at the Marines.
No, you should have another.
11700, that's the paper I gave you when I
Yes,
came
I
in.
see that.
When I came in.
Yeah,
Performance.
but I'm wondering what they gave us. I mean, part of this is we got to make sure the documentation.
What section are you quoting?
It's, performance standards is ordinance 11-700. There's a table there. And it also lists rules that we have about noise levels and how we can control them. Sound levels must be measured with a sound level meter. At no point on a property line or district boundary, as indicated, shall the sound intensity level of any individual operation or plant exceed the decibel levels in either of the designated octave bands shown in the following tables. Those are.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Those are in our ordinance.
What I've been going off of is in our ordinance, it has a table, and it has like receiving land use category, time limit level, and ambient sound. And it has residential property, including single-family, multi-family, apartment, townhome, as specified in the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the city. It has between 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And it has 55 decibels from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 50 from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Mayor, could you tell me where I could find that?
This is, yes, it is in our Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22, Becky?
Okay, chapter 22.
Chapter 10. Oh, I have waterways. Yeah, there's two of them, excuse me. You can explore that. It's Chapter 10, Noise.
10-5.
10-5. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, I think we need to,
What was the section that you referenced?
it's 11,700 under, it's called performance standards.
So can you also add some, plain and quiet things like no speakers after 10 p.m. or no rap lyrics?
It's hard for us to do a type of music. But I sure would like to do, because some of these things count as hate speech now.
So I mean, like, copyrighted lyrics, like, some kind of, that's what the article called noise specific rap, that's super obscene.
I think that's what it is. I mean, there are some very obscene words that are really, when you talk about, and I heard the one at 2 o'clock where we brought it up. I mean, you get people who do that come in, they're easily blaring at 70, 80 decibels, and it is the filthiest language you've ever heard.
But there's nothing inappropriate, no sexually oriented music.
Unfortunately, a lot of that has been through case law, has been deemed First Amendment speech. So, as far as what may be offensive to some of us in this room, is it offensive to somebody out on the boat or somebody else in a different genre, and we're not able to enforce that aspect.
Even if it's characterized as hate speech.
But zoning ordinances, right? Sexually oriented businesses are prohibited in the shopping center. So why can't you have?
What about obscenities? Aren't there laws about obscenities?
We have a difficulty there, but I'll check it out.
And then what about no power balls? I mean, do you have that?
So I was going to come back to the cigar, but you brought it up.
And no speakers after 10 p.m.
See, that to me, that's where you have the absolute threshold. If you lower it, the cigarette boats and the engines. I put that in the same category as like municipalities not allowing air brakes or looking at downshifting as a way of braking because the noise is so loud, even though it's not music or things like that. People bypass their mufflers and do things just to be able to make that noise. And I believe that the cigarette boats and the noise that they make should be under the same restrictions as the obscene, music. I mean, because some of those are really loud.
But they buy the boat because it makes the noise.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong, is there's configurations of whether you bring it through the muffler and under the water or not. And a lot of them, they choose to bypass that because they want the noise. Doesn't mean that they have to do that in our neighborhood. And just make it at
A
least.
small outboard will generate 120 to 150 decibels. So I guess my thing to council is if we're making an ordinance, to her point, it needs to be enforceable like the chief does, but it also should be somewhat targeted, right? So music is the issue, or the speakers, or the screaming, maybe if we can make some enforcement to target exactly kind of what we're looking for, but not make it too prescriptive. That's the best we have in both worlds, with informing the public of what we're trying to get at, and also making it enforceable on our end.
I have a question.
Let Lonnie speak.
I would like to know who is guilty of the label party code in Nassau Bay and when that came about.
So all I know is if you do Google Map, somebody who was part of the group or whatever actually put that in, and it is now part of the Google Map.
It should be removed.
Yeah.
Anyone
Yeah.
can name anything that's not named.
Correct. Maybe we need to name the Nassau Bay. I thought it was the Bay of Nassau Bay, but I thought it was Nassau Bay Lagoon or something.
Well, I've only been here 58 years, so.
No, I agree, but
Things change.
I don't know exactly who or exactly when, But if you go on Google Maps and go down there, it'll pop up in the center.
I think it's detrimental to the city.
So, pardon me?
I think it's detrimental to the city.
I think it is absolutely detrimental to the city. I think it's a fair comment.
Well, since it's our property and it says Nassau Bay Party Code, we could probably force Google legally to take Nassau Bay off.
Or I would actually say Nassau Bay Lagoon.
Nassau Bay Code of Silence?
Or so.
Nassau Bay Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Hi Phil, I'm Gamma Small for those on the camera.
Yeah.
And my question to you, I hear us being action or this is just a committee to hear ideas and that we're the
Well,
committee.
you got you got 5 of the 7 council people up here.
So we can take action. And what my question is for all of you is the timeline. Can we make changes in this calendar year? Are we looking
Yeah,
at?
we can. We can. Actually, we can do things pretty quickly. I mean, the reason why I said some of what I'm hearing, maybe 2 things that would be most constructive. And I even say with the cigarette boats, one good thing is they don't sleep over, so they either come in and go. So they're temporary in what they are. People that stay out there inside the garden,
They also don't like no wake zones.
they don't. They don't. Because they like to get in and get out, right?
To kind of bring another issue up that hasn't been brought up yet, the people that do spend the night, and again, this is an enforcement thing, a lot of them are out there without their lights on, which I believe if you are parked overnight in the dark, you have to have your lights, right? You have to have, and that's a safety thing too, you know, other boats are coming in and out, and you've got boats parked out there with no lights. And then, of course, there's always the alcohol consumption on the code.
I mean, that's just a straight enforcement, you know, right now, the laws are the laws that are stricter than anything we can do now. And I mean, there's a couple of things that I see voter safety, you know, the light is one, the number of life preservers for people on the boat. And the big one that I just shake my head is people out there with kids who are 2, 3 years old that have no life preserver on at all, going throughout there. And the other thing too that I worry about, because I've heard from voters, and they say with other people, is that, you know, you'll get a boat that has, you know, a tent, you know, they get the big boat in the middle, you have things there, you'll have 20 people on the boat, and their head is under constant use, they just open the top cock, and it just dumps into our bay. I have no issue with that. I have a real issue with that.
Both the Coast Guard and the Texas Parks and Wildlife boats show up on a regular basis, and you can tell for about 2 hours after they come in there that things quiet down quite a bit. They check for life preserves and they check for everything else.
They do. They board
things.
And I think we need to look at saying we need to do some of that also, because right now, when the Coast Guard comes in, they come in, they come in at a time frame and they will board every boat in any area that they target. They make no exception. And while they're on, you know, sometimes they'll come in, they can board 2 boats at one time to try to get it quickly.
Yeah.
But you'll see 3 or 4 boats take off because they know they're in violation. They're just getting the heck out of Dodge.
But apparently, they occasionally have a boat parked at the channel. When the guys take off, they stop them and they say, "Okay, what are you getting out of here for?"
Yeah, correct. Yeah, Rod.
Rod Malo, Nassau Bay Drive. I think the action of the no wake zone there, Phil, at the choke point to the Twitter Creek, that whole distance.
Yeah.
Making that no wake zone will definitely change a lot of people's behavior.
I think it will.
It will take anywhere at a no wake of a standard 22-foot boat. It will take 15 to 20 minutes to cover that distance.
Mm-hmm. And most people will choose to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you mentioned the problem with people mooring close to people's property. Can we put up buoys at the 100-foot mark, or 100-yard mark, whatever it is? No mooring.
I think that's right.
We used to.
I think so what I'm hearing is from this group, and council, keep me honest here, is no brainer for residential, no wake. We may have problems here dealing with the people in League City, but I'll tackle that one. That may be longer, but This we can do overnight with a no wake zone. And then the question is how we get the buoy and stuff out there. Here, to me, it's the noise. It's the noise and enforcing what we currently have, which is 100 yard from a fixed, fixed bulkhead, 50 feet, period, and having the signage so that everybody knows that it's there. I mean, I personally would like to see it just come down 5 decibels because that just gives the police more authority to be able to handle, people who are in violation.
Bill, in the short term, I mean, could you not just make it no anchoring back there?
You could, but I would tell you, I think there'd be people in Nassau Bay that would have a problem with that, just personally, from what I know. I mean, I think there is that's why I prefaced it in the beginning. There are people in this town who have boats, who want to recreate and do things. I don't see them as the bad actors. What I see is people coming in, like what I showed, the two of you when a group decides to, put 9 boats together, play loud music, turn and do spinning wheels, music loud, and they chase everybody off the lake. They really do. I just don't think that's fair. I just don't think that's fair to our residents.
So maybe a shorter term solution and shorter term with the buoys, can you do no anchoring without a city permit? Yeah, like the dog park.
What I,
and that gives you the opportunity in getting the permit.
Let me follow up. I don't know the answer to that yet, but because there's administrative things that would have to be with that. But I think that's a similar vein to what Rex said about whether you put moorings out there.
Yeah,
Right?
just an easier
have the administrative things there, right? So it's the same thing. Right? That's probably a little bit longer term, but I really want these things in place for this season. I really do.
Bill Todd, 2004. Three quick things. Hazard navigation on the blind purpose. You use that terminology.
Yeah.
Okay, because it is. There's huge concrete slabs that you guys have seen when the water tide goes out. These slabs are out 10 meters out in the water.
Yeah.
It is a dangerous area on both those corners.
Mm-hmm. Particularly this one.
Yeah,
this one.
No, that one right there. But right over by the ramp you were talking about too.
Yeah, there it is.
There's a lot there. My second thing I wanted to mention was that area right along the north end of the peninsula. We have signs there now. There's big wooden signs. I think it says no music past 10 feet or some crazy thing like that. But
no, I think it's the same thing. It's the same language like no excessive music, be a good neighbor or something.
That's our zone.
Yeah.
That's our zone. That's welcome to Nassau Bay. We're happy to have you here, but don't break these rules. To me, that's your entrance. So that's your receptionist desk. Right there.
Correct. I agree.
And
with
that's where even the police can go out there and monitor the speed. They go on a bike.
I look at it right here as that's where and it should be. This is a residential waterway.
Absolutely. Right there at the gateway.
Our ordinance that apply. Boom, noise, distance, no weight.
I think we hit them as they come in there. And the third thing, I think we need a committee. I think it would be a good idea to have you guys probably already thinking about this, but it would be helpful to have a committee to help work this.
That's fair. We
can go around, we can make calls to the people that are renting jet skis and say, hey guys, you better, tell your people. They're not welcome to come doing 60 miles an hour in Nassau Bay anymore.
We have not thought about that.
These are things that citizens can help with. And some of that.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, so.
My question was going to be how we're going to convey all of this information to these people that do not live here who will be coming in. How do we convey this information?
Police chief with a ticket.
Okay.
I know you grimace.
No, I want them to know.
I think the easiest solution is we've got to have signage up. It's got to be very specific. Spell mess, like this is a Texas State Park. Instead of people cursing out and telling me shut up,
Correct.
This is the
Like
state
you
park.
are in city of Nassau Bay territory. These
Yes.
are our
This
people.
is our-
This is not
residential
public
area.
water.
This is not a public waterway.
Yes, correct.
This is a residential neighborhood.
And they will be enforced.
Yeah. Hang on, I want to get Brian back here.
So to Becky's comment, how do we get once we actually figure out what we're going to do, how do we get that out there? The easiest ways is you hit all the marine dealers, and more importantly, you get with groups like the Coast Guard Auxiliary that also visit these marine dealers like West Marine, the bait shops, Marine Max, hand out all this literature. They conduct vessel safety inspections, free inspections for folks to make sure you have all your life jackets and life-saving equipment, your boat is seaworthy. Then when they make these visits, they can hand out this information. They usually hand out a whole stack of stuff, brochures, flyers. It might just be one more piece of paper that you throw on there. Get with the local flotilla. There's one out of Seabrook that covers this general area, and they will let anyone they know say, hey, just a heads up, Nassau Bay is private in terms of it's not state, it's not state property. It is a city-owned property. They have their own rules. These are the rules. And if you don't follow them, you're going to have a meeting with Chief Cromie.
How about the internet and social media and stuff like that?
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot more people than you are going to get at Maximum Meridian.
Well, it's one avenue. You have to hit every avenue possible.
Again, a lot of the demographics are part of the younger crowd around drinking. Not uniformly, but it's part of the.
I would also just say the voters community is like very close knit, and once the word gets out, Nassau Bay is cracking down, people are gonna know.
Yeah, they are.
What's the rules?
I agree with that.
I mean, you'd be surprised how far the word spreads in a short amount of time, and just voters in general.
Yeah.
You gotta change the behavior, right?
You got to. I mean,
The easiest way is to no wake zone. That's strong, and the signage.
Yeah.
This is not a state water. This is a residential neighborhood.
I mean, there's a private
And-
Facebook group, Nassau Bay Party Cove. It has 1,600 members.
Wow.
Yeah, it does. So, hang on, name and address.
Paul Fluke, 2011 Port Lawn. I have a legal question. Do the residents of Nassau Bay have rights above and beyond what non-residents have in that code?
Other than if you have any property destroyed, you have those rights.
No, but no different right of access or anything like that?
No, we do not. As things are currently written,
yeah,
I believe the access to that waterway is access to the general public, and there's not a restriction depending on residency within the city.
It's no different than you having access to Port Royal as compared to the general public that's just coming in, that doesn't reside here. They have the same access to the public.
Okay.
Although if you put moorings in and charged a fee for them, you might give priority to Nassau Bay residents. I would imagine if you want to reserve the basketball court or something in the park.
Yeah, that was my question.
That's your priority.
So, all the way in the back.
Hi, Sarah Kimbrough, 2006 Beth Bay. The one thing I've been looking on Google, and you can suggest edits, like that right now it says open 24 hours. You can suggest that it says, open these hours or noise limits, and you can put in suggestions. So when people Google, Nassau Bay, I actually submitted that they take out party. Good. So it'll just say Nassau Bay Cove if they allow my suggestion. But you're, especially as a city council or whatever, you're allowed to go to them and say, hey, this is what we want.
Good point.
You can just claim this page.
If this is done by tomorrow, you're getting a day named after you. It's not gonna keep the same.
Another question, if you see a boat that's, doing something unsafe or unlawful or whatever, and you get their TX number, can you use the TX number to report them to the police?
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Question, why don't we get a drone?
I actually was thinking, because let me say it's not just here, but we've had this same question come up in our parks, where we've had, vandalism to duck feeders. We've had people put photographic books in the little children's library. We've had people who've done just damage at Swan Lagoon where they did stuff. And the question is do we want to cross the bridge and actually have cameras for surveillance to be able to help, be able to get vote numbers, things along that line? And that's not an easy question.
Well, my point would be in lieu of using the patrol boat after hours and needing, it used to be that you used to have 2 guys on the boat. But, this is something that someone could do from the shore.
You could. Well, I said, let's give a 99-year lease on my property boat.
That's what they do in Clear Lake Shores.
Yeah, is it?
Volunteers sitting there with a radar gun and a notepad. And
that may be.
People take notice of that.
Well, I bring this up specifically because the boat that anchors just beyond the fence to the peninsula has blue lights on it at night. It's the one that stays long after everyone else is gone. They're there till maybe 11 o'clock. And what they do is they like to announce that they're preparing to leave by cranking up the music for half an hour or so, or 15 minutes. So when you call the cops, if you are lucky enough to get somebody to show up, there's no music anymore. That could be handled, I think, effectively.
They've got a scanner. On some of these, they've got a scanner because some people here, they call me and I'm intending to call the chief or Paul or things like that. And I kid you not, 3 minutes after I call or something like that, 5 minutes, all of a sudden it goes from very loud to like really low, and then they leave. And so they're not dumb people. They're not dumb people.
Just one other thing, we have to say we put the signage up. You could just say camera enforced.
Yeah.
Leave it up to them to think.
Good suggestion.
What that means, because I got some big cameras.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
That could be a camera.
I'm still trying to figure out what planes get me when I'm going through half the time.
But the other was, you want a police scanner, it's on your phone. So.
But what I'm hearing is, again, no wake in the residential area. What I'm hearing is, we're going to have to talk about how we can make sure we enforce those, but communication in places to be able to say what our ordinances are, and some sort of aid for the police or whatever as to where the points are for people's property that you can go up to, and that's at least the first thing. And I'm going to look into how we might be able to do a mooring, somehow administrative work to be able to control the absolute number of people. But that's not something we can do tomorrow. These things we can pretty much do tomorrow.
One other thing we didn't touch on, but is happening. People, I know coming down Seco, because I've witnessed it, people are actually walking down the cove and getting onto boats.
Yeah, they are.
They're crossing the burn and they're actually getting onto boats at the end.
Yeah, they're crossing at each of the 3 main cul-de-sacs. They are using those. And again, I can just say from we've actually had DoorDash deliver food saying that somebody's called, and we don't know what it is, and we say to people, no, that's ours, and they put it up and they deliver across our property. They use our time, and we're like, come on, right? So, we're trying to get people to talk to the because there's now fire hydrants and some of the things here, so when they park or try to do that, they're causing a bigger problem than they know. So, yeah.
Mayor, Herb Mark, for those who ski, I don't see many people represented here today who do ski. Where would they ski?
Yeah, so they'd still be able to ski here.
Okay.
They'd still be able to ski here, and you probably could still ski here, but it's tough because there's boats there.
Well, that all is an always. Well, you mean?
Do we want to say no wake all the way down to here?
I mean,
Yes.
I mean, if you have no wake there, there's no, you can't really hard to get a wake.
Fair enough.
There's not enough room to get on planes.
I'm trying to make sure we balance some things here. That's a big body. I'd love to see no wake because again, this is all residential.
Of course, I guess you could get like a guy that works on jet ski that, eases in there and then just does a bunch of.
Well, if you, they've been doing that this weekend.
That's even more dangerous, right?
So-
Right, I mean, yeah, so I mean, if you do know what's
But a
going
jet ski going in and out generally has no way.
No, but the weight isn't the problem, it's the speed, it's the
It
people
is.
that are owning them or renting them, they don't have a track them.
Right after the one.
Does that sound like a good first step, folks?
So you're only talking about that, you're talking about the one that goes by the park, that.
Right here? We have some jurisdictional, I mean, I'm gonna take it, I'll call the mayor of League City. These
Now they're opening up.
These two areas right here are danger areas. So at a minimum, we should look at aid navigation, but to actually put no weight, we're only half of it.
Well, I wouldn't, it would take forever.
So I was talking to my husband about this today. It's like when you're making that first bend, that is the most nerve-wracking part of my entire boat travel of my whole life ever. If there was some way to see around that with a big mirror, I don't know. Like it's not realistic. Someone has to clean it, but it is very very close because there are people surfing, and you round that bend no matter how far you go out. People are dropped in the water.
My physical observation is I see multiple people race on jet skis. So there could be 3
100%.
that are flying through here, and they're taking out the whole thing, and then it's a blind curve. They come just flying around. It's like
It makes me heartburn every time I make that corner.
So,
Just salt, so yeah.
are we in consensus?
So,
Well, hang on.
I see an easy way to address the no wake in section 22-27.
Yeah.
Under C is excessive speed, and we could just include another bullet point under there, similar to what we have in Cal Bayou, which extends a permanent slow no wake zone.
Yeah.
As far as updated signage, that's just something that we just do, right?
Yeah,
That's
we
not
do.
a.
That's just operational.
Yeah, just
Operational, I don't think that required.
Yeah, I think you have sole authority to be able to put up the signage for whatever we do. So that's something we can, we don't even need an ordinance.
If we're gonna change the hazardous weight to no weight, then that'll have to be a change in the ordinance.
Correct that, but I'm saying the signage representing that, correct? My intent would be to come to June council meeting.
We can leave the hazardous weight there, but just add a section in excessive speed.
I would like to move that. I would like to remove the hazardous weight altogether so there's no confusion. Where would hazardous no weight zone throughout all of our waterways? Where would hazardous weight apply?
And it says excessive weight on the sign, or excessive weight on the sign.
Yeah, that'd be.
Correct. We're gonna have to update the
Yeah,
sign.
I think all of it.
Correct.
Oh, wait, we gotta change the.
Gotta have buoys.
Pardon me?
Gotta have buoys.
I think we have to have
For sure.
buoys too.
Yeah.
I don't think we can over communicate, just honestly.
The other thing, Mayor, I was suggesting, being we have an input, would like to talk about the rafting, because right now, ordinance is 2 to 6. Vessels can raft up together. I would propose that we change that ordinance to either 0 or 2 maximum.
What do people think of that?
I second that motion.
I mean, that's where the real problems are.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 3, but I would go,
I
the
think
less
every
is
councilman
better.
has maybe
No, I just know that like a lot of us neighbors, we raft up, we don't have our engines on, our kids are all playing.
You're real.
And we are not causing any harm by having our boats together.
I think 6 is.
I think 6 is probably a good number. There's probably not ever more than that, but I wouldn't make it 2.
Would you make it, could you do 3 or 4? Just bring it, just tie it.
And you could anchor 3 feet apart. It's not a big deal. It's
Yeah,
just-
that's what they're saying, is if you could anchor 3 feet apart or do something like that.
But
this
most, I would say the residents of this city that we all have young kids and we all have our little lily pads out there,
Yeah.
like our kids are bouncing and eating snacks on people's boats and.
I personally don't see that many people from Nassau Bay.
No, and we definitely
rafting
don't
out there
have
where
engines on.
We're actually at their gunnels.
Yeah.
Lassoed up.
Mr. Mayor, is blocking or crowding of the waterway a problem? I haven't heard that tonight.
Blocking or crowding the water, you mean to be just like in areas going like that?
So the point I'm trying to make is, if we're saying no rafting, is that really the problem we're trying to solve? Or is it the noise that's coming from these boats all gathered together?
It's the no, I mean.
And I go back to, more a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
I don't see the problem with rafting, I see a problem with noise.
With the noise.
Weight.
And I also know I'm really.
Tell me what's wrong with rafting before we.
No, I
really
don't
not.
see anything wrong with
There's
that.
really not.
The one thing I would say is you should never have your engine on when you're rafting, period.
And maybe that's something, people do that.
Like,
They do that.
And the carbon monoxide that comes when you're rafting that many people together. And if they have their engines on, yes.
The other thing too is that's where I worry when you have the one big boat where they use a common head and they just leave the sanitation line open in some areas. But again, that's not rafting per se, it's.
Well, there's laws against that.
Yeah, no.
That's a federal law. Marpole.
Like the Coast Guard.
Marpole, please.
Well, we have those things, that's one of the things, we just don't have the manpower right now, but I would certainly I take responsibility that when I see little kids out there that don't have life where they should, it's part of the ordinances, just like if somebody's speeding or bumps somebody with things, you gotta control that. Number of life preservers, as well as whether your discharge cock is open, right? As well as the horn.
So can we do something, some sort of ordinance that says that if you're rafting, your engine must be off?
Engine must be off.
None of them can be off. That's a safety thing. It is
That is,
something.
I completely agree.
Bill, there's one thing to consider in this whole picture, something I have not seen until the last year. In the last 2 weeks, we had one big boat, probably 60 feet, that said something Montana. And about 5 days later, there was one from Salt Lake City, Utah. And I've seen a lot of other boats that come up in here who are from states far away. So that was part of my thinking too on this party code thing, and people see plus the word of mouth. So when you look at the near picture, there's a far picture that goes along with it though.
Yeah.
So in everything we do, I think it's best that we do everything we can to control our own home.
Yep. So if we don't do the rafting side of it, what about just bringing down another 5 decibels to 7?
Well, the more boats you get together, the more noisy, right?
What are we trying to solve? If we're trying to cut down the number of people that are coming to our privately owned areas, the best way to do that is get rid of the rafting because these groups follow rafting. So the root cause is rafting. Now, downstream of that, noise and there. If we get rid of rafting, a lot of people are going to go somewhere else because that's what they want to do. This is not public water. This is our water. We can treat this the way we want. If we don't want all those people, we don't make money off them. Every single day, I have to clean up behind my house, 2 doors down from Monty and back here, life preservers, beer cans, trash. I personally go out there, not the city, and I clean up trash all the time. And not small amount, garbage cans full of trash. If you look at my house right now, you'll see giant floating things out there.
The guy
up.
who was like at our cul-de-sac who had the jet ski had 4 cases of beer on his jet ski.
So do we want to? Are we looking for people to come to Nassau Bay to have their flotilla vacation? I say no. In my opinion, the answer is no. I don't want to be involved in that. I want to do whatever I can do to deter them from coming here and going someplace else and having fun.
Fair comment.
But you have to balance that with the varieties of the current residents.
Yeah. So what it may be is we may get
I understand this point. I'm not arguing it. I think the majority of the people racking up out there are not people who live here.
They're not.
You know when the people who live here are out there because our music is not on and all you hear are kids screaming that are probably 300 decibels loud.
That's what we want.
It's a catch-22 because I enjoy seeing the boats out there in the lake.
I do too.
That's the hard part, but we need to control it.
Yeah, so let me do this. is let's do the first step first. I'm going to have another session with some of the people on council to see here where, whether we either do something where we take it down 5 decibels or we just say, no rapping or 2 the most or whatever it is. But something's got to give there, because the way it is right now, that is where a lot of the problem is.
You may want to put in a line item that you can have larger numbers in there for the 4th of July fireworks.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe, it excludes some holidays.
Give the city manager the ability to waive.
Christmas boat parade. The ordinance doesn't fireworks. Well, that's the noise ordinance. They're about city sponsored. I think you're talking about the boats being able to come out and congregate to watch that for that one event.
Right.
I understand what you're saying.
That's something where we do want people to come to Nassau Bay. That's something we put on, and that's a one-time exemption. So
technically they can see them out in the lake.
And they do close the waterway, they close it down.
It's closed. Yes.
They stop traffic.
For safety, everything's closed out on the crib. So, but I understand what you're saying. Just for 1 or 2 events, Christmas boat parade, 4th of July.
Yeah. Especially
use. And not all day. Certain time periods during the day.
Sundown.
I agree with you.
2 hours before sundown. I don't know.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Chief, real quick, can you go over the hours, and since we have a holiday coming up, that way everyone knows what we're currently going to be.
Yeah, so right now, currently, like I explained earlier, we're limited in personnel. We have to have at the minimum of 2 people on that boat. And I just don't have the personnel to put 2 officers on the boat at the same time. So we partner with the fire department. The fire department has the pilots. Because the state boat it's not your Boston Whaler where you can jump on there. It's dual motors, dual throttles. It's specialized training to pilot and drive these boats. So they operate the boats while we are on there for the enforcement purposes. These are volunteers that are out here working for us. So we're usually in the area between 2 and 6 in the afternoon, the peak time. Part of that is because when we bring somebody in, I bring somebody in off duty to work an extra assignments such as the Marine Division or Marine Patrol, and fire department has one of their operators. It's not just 4 hours on the water. There's some time prior to getting the boat ready, getting the boat in the water. Once the boat comes off the water, there's maintenance that has to be done, cleaning, flushing, and everything. So we may be on the water for 4 hours. There's probably closer to 6 hours of actual time being put in by us. So we're there in the late afternoon to the evening hours when the height of everybody's out there. We're not out there in the morning.
The feedback that I've given the chief is that the time frame really past 6 o'clock is important, because that 4 to 6 period of time, people are thinking, are they going to stay? Are they going to go somewhere else? And the presence of that boat gives a pointed recommendation for them to go somewhere else. So rather than like 2 to 6, I'd rather see like 4 to 8, and usually that covers the time frame for people there. It would be great if it could be 2 to 8, but I get what you're saying. But I mean, people don't even really start coming out there till maybe starting at noon, 1 o'clock. You got people, then you got a good amount of people at around 2, but it's really 4 o'clock when the fits start taking shaft. Yeah.
Well, we're and sometimes depending on the weekend, we're flexible, but we are somewhat, I don't want to say hindered, but we're responsible to the volunteers to come out that are coming out, the fire department personnel that are already volunteering their time, as fire department personnel, doing other things, and for them to come out and operate the boat. It's not my position as chief of police to say your volunteers will be out here till 8 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday. That's their weekend also. It's a little bit different with my personnel. I can assign duties like that, but we have to be respectful of the volunteers that are out here working with us. Just because I don't have the personnel, we have to put. I can't put 2 persons on the boat. We can't put And then the boat that we have is just not functioning with one person on it. You know?
And Tom, how many volunteers, licensed volunteer operators do you have?
We have 5 certified operators. And that's not an easy process.
If I use a high-tech decibel meter and take a screenshot, is that usable as evidence if we call the police out?
Right. Well, the officers will come out. The
Right.
problem is,
If they're blaring at 90 and we call, and the light comes up and they turn it down and now it's 25. You know.
So like somebody else said, you know, TX numbers on the boats, it's just like somebody driving your car. We can get a license plate. We have to be able to identify the person who's driving that car, who's operating that boat. So it's very difficult when we're not in the water. We don't have problems when we're in the water. It's, you know, 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. The council, I've shared with them the calls for service that we had related to, I don't want to say the party code, because obviously, but out in the water there, you know, some of the calls and complaints that I think somebody over here is already, you know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, we obviously don't have a boat in the water. We can identify a boat, but can we identify the person who's operating the boat, who's in charge of the boat, who's responsible for that noise or for, you know, causing a wake in a no-wake zone? And that's our problem. It's, you know, that's the problem. We don't have red light cameras anymore. Not that we ever had them, but across, you know, because the identifying who the person is, the red light cameras always identified a vehicle by license plate and who the owner was, and they were sending citations to the owner of the vehicle. We can't do that. We have to know who the person operating is to be able to cite the person, because the vehicle itself, whether it's a vessel,
but if he gets,
is not
it's
committing the violation.
if he gets all that information and has a 90 decibel reading,
Certainly call.
Is that data you can use to give a citation? Is that pretty much what you're asking?
If we can identify who the person is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that that's really possible. Because who knows where that 90 decibels came from? I mean, you could have had that next to a radio, took a screenshot of it, and then said, oh, hey, these people are out on this boat, and this is their.
But you can certainly call an officer.
Absolutely.
We have those.
Do we also have a jet ski available to us now, or no?
Fire department has.
Fire department does.
Yes. We have something that looks like.
Can we do no anchoring overnight or after dark? Would that help at all?
I just think it would hit some of the people in the neighborhood, living in the neighborhood.
So non-resident.
Well, but the city, like, okay, so let's talk about like just inside city limits, like ordinance on land. 10 o'clock, 10:30, whatever it is. Like, we've had parties at our house where we're not being allowed and we've been called on, right? In backyard swimming, kids are screaming. Cops come, you know, you gotta shut it down.
They keep telling me about that.
Not that I was doing anything wrong, the kids are loud, I promise you, their
Well,
voices.
So we just
Close the park at 11.
I'm thinking about the park, right? We just said David Ron Park, it has hours, it's closed at 11, and we now have that gate there to try to enforce that. But with waterways, Brian would probably be able to, I mean, even if it's city property, is there anything kinky if you were to say, hey, Party Cove is now not Party Cove anymore at 10.
Well, I think your biggest overriding problem here is that it's zoned residential, not park. And so residential is going to have different. Well, you would have to find a way to redesignate it and rezone it as park. You can do that. I'm sure, unless there's some restriction in the way we annexed.
Well, the peninsula goes out there, right? So if the border of the peninsula, you know, and that closes at sunset.
Because otherwise, like it was said earlier, it's basically like just having access to the street. If it's zoned residential. But if you rezone it park, then you can say, okay, I mean, obviously you're not going to have the physical barrier in there. But now you have redesignated park. You can say, okay, no one past 11 o'clock or 10 or whatever you designate as the time.
No, of course, so we post to our legal counsel.
I also look at things as that there are people who do trips on boats that come in and out and might need to have access, you know, where they're coming in late at night. You know,
residents who live here.
Yes, residents.
Oh,
There's one.
That fish.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, if it's zoned residential, can't you just enforce residential noise ordinances?
You
Why-
can, that's what I'm saying, those we can do.
We're talking about
Yeah, so-
the ability to close the park overnight. After a
Well,
certain
but
hour.
if you're putting up the signs, can't you do the same thing, put hours saying, you know,
Would
it's
it be like,
closed at X?
it'd be like you can't go down Back Court for, after 11 o'clock.
No, she was asking, can't we enforce our,
That's what I wanna know.
which of our decibel ordinances apply? I mean,
Yeah,
can we
I'm
apply?
actually curious to see where that came from. I could not find that in our ordinance.
It is in our muni codes, that's where I looked.
I'll talk to you after. I couldn't find 11,700
Okay, all right, and another one I was looking at was
See,
11,500.
in the building.
Maybe,
All I know is we'll get to the bottom of that,
Yes.
Becky,
Thank you.
because I've noticed here, that's one of the things we've been trying to clean up is there's been, how should I say, conflicting ordinances over time. So, but my understanding is the noise ordinance that I said is the one at least I'm aware of should be what we should be adhering to.
It's like, do we have more, I'm wondering if we like have more ability to like enforce things if we designate it as a park versus if we designated it as residential. I'm just curious, I'm not saying. Yeah, parking really close.
It is a navigable waterway.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. Okay. Anyways, I think we've made enough progress at least for phase one today. Any last comments? Any last?
Thank you.
I'm so happy that so many people came.
I am too. So, thank you. This is an important one. We're gonna bring some help here.